So we want a line that is perpendicular to this, and we want a line that is parallel to this, but goes through this particular point. The first problem here is this is not in slope-intercept form. It kind of looks like slope-intercept form, but it's not slope-intercept form. So the first thing we're going to do is rearrange it so it is slope-intercept form. And that means solving for y. We want to get y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And I have 1/3 y equals x plus 2. You'll notice I also made the two objects switch sides. That's fine. We're allowed to make it switch sides. It doesn't matter for our purposes as long as we maintain that equality. So now we have 1/3 y equals x plus 2. Now that we're multiplying by 1/3 by y, we need to get rid of that. And the only way to undo that is to multiply everything by 3. Multiplying by 3 undoes multiplying by 1/3. Okay, that's the same as dividing by 1/3. It's just clearer for a lot of people. I could have written divide by 1/3, but ultimately dividing by 1/3 means multiplying by 3. So that cancels that out there, and we're left with y equals 3x plus 6. And now our slope is obvious, right? Because now that we're in slope-intercept form, we know that 3 is our slope. So if that's the case, now I'm going to move that up there. I'm going to put that away for a second, and I'm just going to deal with making some parallel lines here. I'm going to start in point-slope form because point-slope form is the easiest when I know my slope as I do here and when I know this point. So y minus y1, which is 1, equals slope 3 times x minus x1. There, that's a parallel line that I know for sure goes through 1, 1 because I'm using point-slope form. So I've already got the one parallel line. Now I just have to make it look like the various forms. So for instance, I want to make it look like slope-intercept form. I'm going to do distributive property on this. And I'm going to get y minus 1 equals 3x minus 3. And I'm just going to add 1 to both sides. And I get y equals 3x minus 2. There's slope-intercept form. Now if I want to go from slope-intercept form to standard form, I need to get this x term next to my y term. So I'm just going to subtract 3x. And I'm going to get negative 3x plus y equals negative 2. And I'm almost there, except I've got one problem. We're not allowed to have a negative a. So to get rid of the negative a, we're going to multiply everything by negative 1 and switch all of the signs. So now we have 3x minus y equals 2. So here is point-slope form, here is slope-intercept form, and here is standard form. Now we need to do the perpendicular. It's going to be much the same process, just with a slightly different slope. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shift everything. I'm going to shift the parallel away for a second. And we're going to do it over here, and we're going to focus on just the perpendicular. I've got my point, and I've got my parallel slope. My perpendicular slope has to be the opposite reciprocal of that. So if I imagine 3 is the same as 3 over 1, my perpendicular is necessarily going to be negative, because I have to change the sign, 1 over 3. Okay? That's perpendicular. They're not equal, obviously, but that's how you go to perpendicular from parallel. So now I have my perpendicular slope. I've got my point, so I'm going to do point-slope form. Y minus 1 equals negative 1/3 x minus 1. That is a line which we know for sure is perpendicular to our original line and goes through the point 1, 1 because we've used point-slope form. We know that for sure. Now we just have to go through the same manipulations we did over here to get our various forms with the parallel. We just now have to do that over here with the perpendicular. So we're going to say, okay, distribute negative 1/3. Y minus 1 equals negative 1/3 x plus 1/3, because negative 1/3 times negative 1 is positive 1/3. Add 1 to both sides. And now we have y equals negative 1/3 x plus 4/3. Notice I left it as an improper fraction, as I recommend you do too, okay? It's much easier as an improper fraction than trying to make it a mixed number. Then now we need to go to standard form. So again, this is point-slope form here. We're done with that. Slope-intercept form is here. We're done with that. Now we need standard form, which means we need our x term to go next to our y term. It means we're going to start by adding 1/3 x to both sides. And we have 1/3 x plus y equals 4/3. The problem here is we've got fractions again, and we're not allowed fractions. So to get rid of the fractions, we're going to multiply by these numbers in the denominator here, the least common multiple of those numbers. At least in this case, they're both 3, so we're going to multiply by 3. And we're going to get x plus 3y equals 4, and that's our standard form. And if you look, we now have point slope, slope-intercept standard form for both a perpendicular line and a parallel line. And I'll just highlight those quickly for you so you can see where they are. Here's the point slope forms, here's the slope-intercept forms, and here's the standard forms.